Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down! Baltimore!
What are they giving?
Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Wednesday night, September 7th, 2022. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined on my screen by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz. How's it going, pal?
Going well. We just traded we had opposite weekends. You stayed home, got all your errands done, prepared yourself for football season. I had a wedding in Philly on Sunday and ate 4 cheesesteaks and drank 1 zillion beers. So quite the duel there.
Yeah, no, I hate that for you. You don't seem like you're doing terrible, which is good. It's always nice to have that long weekend to kind of, if you want to be a shithead, you kind of can. And I definitely could have been. I had offers to go down the ocean, and I really considered it. But, brother, let me tell you, when Monday morning rolled around and I was not hungover at all and I was not sitting in traffic to get to the Bay Bridge, my God, let me tell you, that was a good feeling, and I'm still riding that wave. Like, that's better than being drunk, in my opinion, is not being hungover and sitting in traffic.
You're getting old, man.
Maybe I am. Listen, I just turned 27. I'm officially in my mid to late 20s, and maybe this portends good things to come for me. That's what it feels like.
I'm happy for you. There's a weird area in your 20s where hangovers really start to hit different, but then you get sick of being scared of hangovers. So then you're like, all right, like my routine now, I drink pickle juice. I take gas pills. I take antacids. I don't eat pizza when I'm drunk, or at least I try my best to avoid the heartburn foods. Sauna the next day, it does wonders for you. All of those things. So eventually you get sick of it, speaking from a very old 29-year-old. So,
well, I'm looking forward to that. I am a pickle juice guy already. And yeah, I do have my various methods, but yeah, it's something that I need to dabble in a little bit more with. But yeah, probably just going to take, maybe even take the next weekend off booze. We're going to see what happens here because there's no home game until 2 weeks from now. So maybe I'll kind of ride the wave all the way until then, but we'll see.
I love that for you. I am going to New York on Friday night.
You're a man about the world right now. How's that?
I'm taking the old Amtrak up on Friday. I'm staying at a buddy's in the Boken of Hose and going to MetLife on Sunday, going to the big refrigerator.
I think I'm supposed to go to the Giants game, so I've got that on the docket. So I'll probably do the train there as well. We drove up there for Dead & Co. Back in July, which was not too bad, and we actually wound up staying in Manhattan and everything, and even that was fine driving in there for the most part. So yeah, we'll see. I'll probably do the train. We'll see what happens with that. I guess we don't fully have to break down our plans for a couple weeks from now for games. I know fans love that, listeners love that, I should say, but we do have something that we're here to talk about tonight, which is not a preview yet. We've got that coming tomorrow night, ideally with an old friend of the show, who is always great to have on and is a perfect Jet-centric guest. But before then, we have some predickies to make, don't we?
We most certainly do. Went ahead and got started a couple days ago, actually, on my 32-team full week-by-week, 17-week breakdown. And I just didn't like what I had. I just didn't like it. It didn't feel right. I hit the reset button. And today I went back through, and I feel quite pleased with where I am. I think last year I got either 10 or 11, I have to go back and look, 10 or 11 of the 14 playoff teams correct. The big mistake I made 2 years ago, you seriously do have to turn over about half or a little bit less than half of the playoff teams from year to year, or you're not coming close. So I think 2020, I only got I think that was this first year of the 7th seed, and I think I only got 8 maybe or 9 of the playoff teams correct. So I feel good about this one.
Yeah, mine are kind of interesting in that I don't fully remember what I did last year. I probably should have checked, but a little bit of a busy day at work, so I didn't really get the chance to. But I know I had predicted the Bills to really be a wagon last year, and that didn't totally happen. But I don't know. You could make the argument that they could have very well been in the Super Bowl. if not for some Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes type shit. And obviously nobody really had the Bengals doing what they were doing, so they got into the mix there. And I think, I think this year I'm excited for what I've got. It's a little bit of a combination of chalk, but also maybe some surprises. And I don't know. I think I'm kind of ready to start wherever you're ready to start. What do you think?
Well, why don't we start with the AFC East then, if you want to keep it on the Bills. So AFC East, Sean McDermott, I guess going into year 4 or 5 now. Year one, it is wild. Year 1 of Ken Dorsey taking over for Brian Daboll, and I believe their defensive coordinator is still Leslie Frazier. Yes, so rolling out a pretty hot trio. Ken Dorsey was a hot name in circuits to go be a head coach or go be an OC elsewhere. Definitely was rumored about the Ravens as well, and the Bills. I had them winning the AFC East and taking the number 1 seed, and surprisingly. Actually, I guess it's not surprising, but I had them at 12-5. I had them at 3-3 in their own division. I think that they're in a weird division. I think the Dolphins are a tough team, but Bills I had taken the number 1 seed in the AFC here and 12-5.
Yeah, I got them at 13-4, but I have them as the 2 seed actually. 5-1 within their division, which is interesting. And I guess going down the rest of the division, I went Dolphins 8-9. I think I might be a little bit more bullish on this Mike McD experience than some other people might be. So I got them at 8-9 and 3-3 with their division. Also at 3-3 are the Patriots, who I had at 7-10. And this was a situation where if I had gamed it out a little bit more and I was just like looking at the Patriots and saying like, oh, what do you predict them to be? I probably would have said like 9-8 or 10-7, but them's the breaks when you go through it week by week and things just kind of turn out the way that they turn out. And 7-10 for the Patriots, a little bit of a step back from Mac Jones. If you're reading we definitely have some Patriots mutuals on Twitter. So if you're like reading some of those reports, it is like apocalyptic for some of those guys who a couple years ago were, still reveling in this kind of late career Tom Brady period and still basking in the glow of those Super Bowls that they won. That's kind of long gone now. And they're kind of questioning whether they're even a playoff team at this point. So I got them at 7-10, and then Jets 1-5 at 5-11.
There we go. I took the Dolphins to be the 6th seed at 11-6. I'm curious. I'm a little bit more on Tua than most. I think that he is very similar to Jimmy G in a lot of ways, and maybe just enough more. Jimmy G actually has that nice athleticism in terms of pocket movement and go, take a sack well or go fall forward for 2 yards. Those things. I think Tua provides a little more in that sense. I don't think there's a huge difference of arm talent there necessarily, but I believe Tua is a competitive player who understands when to take his shots. In terms of being aggressive, while he was a lot of a check down Charlie, but very bullish on Teron Armstead coming in. Obviously, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Mike Gesicki. They've got some nice weapons. Mostert, Chase Edmonds in the backfield. They've got Myles Gaskin still back there, I believe, as well. So kind of reminds you of a 49ers room in many ways. So I think that we see the Dolphins be a very competitive team. I had the Patriots at a whopping 7-10. So what I ended up finding for myself is that I feel like the Patriots will beat some good teams and look good at parts, and then ultimately just I'm just uncertain of the way Patricia and whatever offensive medley cocktail they have of calling plays, what the dichotomy there is going to be like. Their offensive line is outstanding on paper. They do have some defensive playmakers. They lose J.C. Jackson, which is a huge blow. They bring in a couple, ancillary players like Jabril Peppers, some things like that. So I see them being a very competitive team. I wouldn't be surprised to see them be a wild card team, even maybe an 11-win team. I do like Mac Jones too, but ended up with them at 7-10. And then the Jets, who I felt like up until a couple of weeks ago, I was super bullish on. And I just don't see it in the cards. Looking through their offensive line situation, losing Becton. They've got a couple other guys banged up. We'll get into the preview, hopefully with a esteemed guest and former guest that we've had on as well tomorrow. But that's how I had it playing out. 12-5 for the Bills, 5-12 for the Jets. Dolphins making the playoffs, Patriots missing out.
Yeah, it's interesting. And like the Patriots are going to be a weird case study in that importance of coaching stuff that I think we talk about a lot. And I think fans gloss over a lot. I mean, you think about that Tom Brady career renaissance that really happened around like 2014. People forget he was kind of in the wilderness a little bit relative to him between like 2010 and 2013, or maybe after 2010 when McDaniels had left. to go do whatever the hell he was doing. And then McDaniels went back there, and that's kind of right around the time Tom started to play better. So could speak to the importance of having him in the building, and he was probably pretty big for Mac Jones. So I think that's going to be a big storyline to follow there.
Very well said. So a division that has 2 playoff teams for me, and I guess we can roll on over to the premier division in football. Was next up for me in my list, I think, and you probably have the same layout on the left-hand side of your screen there. But
Yep.
The Chiefs, I had winning the division, and the number 2 seed also at 12-5. I had them doing really well in their division. I think that I had them at 5-1. I think they split with the Chargers. Think that they are very balanced, and defensively, you're looking at a guy like Carlos Dunlap. You're looking at a guy like George Karlaftis, Saunders in the backfield there, or in the front line. Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Leo Chenal, quite an athletic and physical linebacking core. They lose Tyrann Mathieu, bring in Justin Reed, who a lot of Ravens fans definitely wanted. Juan Thornhill, someone I think highly of. Their defense looks like it's in good shape. Their offensive line looks like it's in relatively good shape still. Darian Kennard, the backup right tackle on paper, on the PR depth charts, I believe. So someone that apparently has had a nice camp. And you go think about the wide variety of receivers that they have and how it's a little more balanced than it's ever been. I think the doomsday and the crux of this team is if Travis Kelce, for some reason, misses time, which he has not in, I think, since his rookie or second year. He hasn't really missed any time. So I foresee Kelce having a monster year, still being the focal point between Hardman and Scantling and Sky Moore and Juju. You have a different flavor of ice cream all around. So I'm thinking the Chiefs are not going to take that step back that a lot of people have them taking. They're built for this, man. The worst the Chiefs have done is losing in the AFC Championship with Patrick Mahomes. I think he is still otherworldly. They're a very competitive team. I don't see them winning less than 10 games, and that would be a doomsday circumstance. So I had them winning the division.
Yeah, people talk about this with the Ravens, where people kind of quietly forgot about them because they went 8-9 last year, and I agree with that to an extent. But the degree to which people have just forgotten about the Chiefs every single year, and it's just I get that they haven't maybe fully lived up to the Golden State Warriors of the NFL thing that we thought they were going to be, but I think this is maybe going to be that year. I've got them at 13-4, and weirdly, this division, I'm not going out on the limb saying this, but I'm predicting it to be probably the most competitive division in NFL history. So I had them 13-4, 4-2 within the group, and they are the 1 seed. And then the 5 seed, I had the formerly known as San Diego Chargers, 12-5, 3-3 within the division. I had the Raiders, who I really liked, but they're the 7 seed at 11-6. They also go 3-3 in the division. And then Mr. Unlimited and the boys I had missing out at 10-6, 2-4 in the division. I just couldn't find that many losses in this division.
Yeah, I had a similar breakdown. I had the Chargers also 12-5, the Raiders 10-7, narrowly missing the playoffs. Tough team for me and really both them and the Broncos, tough team. I had them both losing more than they won in the division and both missing the playoffs ultimately. The Chargers, it feels had that boldness about them last year, despite still having some holes, despite, their defense not translating to Brandon Staley's scheme. And obviously they're the big Cinderella on paper this year for a lot of pundits. And I buy into it to a degree. I've seen people calling them, a 15-2 team and, can the Chargers go undefeated, things like that. Not in this division. No way, no how. Injuries do happen, but they come back with Ronaldo Hill under Brandon Staley. Still have Joe Lombardi there. Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, Joe Lombardi's still there, who took a ton of shit last year. And I like what he did with Justin Herbert. I understand that the ADOT wasn't quite as much as you wanted it and some of those things, but it felt like they worked on being in rhythm offensively, and they continue to get better on their offensive line. They bring in Zion Johnson, who's might end up being one of the Hall of Famers out of this draft class. He is that damn good. About as good of a guard prospect as you can ask for. They have him next to Lindsley. They got Slater. All these guys up front for them in their offensive line. The weapons are somewhat balanced. They still are rolling out Williams and Allen. Josh Palmer primed for a nice number 3 role there. So defensively, all the guys they have is ridiculous. So that could go either way. I think the Chiefs and the Chargers are the ones fighting it out. And then, hey, man, Raiders, Broncos make the playoffs. Not surprising at all. I just couldn't find it in the cards. Like you said, one of the most competitive divisions in our lifetime. And year 1 first head coach for Hackett And then Josh McDaniels has been a head coach before. But again, it's a new year. You're turning things over. They do some weird stuff. Trade Trayvon Mullen, which I don't understand. Did a couple things that were a little But the pass rush for the Raiders, the pass rush for the Chargers, and the pass rush for the Chiefs, very serious. And I think that's one of the more underrated aspects of looking at how good this division is. The Broncos have Bradley Chubb too, and some other dogs up front. So ton of pass rush, ton of juice in this division. I'm taking the Chiefs and the Chargers. Wouldn't be shocking any outcome to happen out of that division.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be truly the wild, wild west. I'm very excited to watch some of these games. I mean, I think it speaks to the overall level of competition in the NFL and just how ratcheted up everything is that we get a group of death like this, and it's going to be awesome to watch.
And I'm just curious to see how the Chargers continue in that high leverage. Staley put them in so many high leverage situations with going for it and submitting his team to pressure. And it feels like that could pay off.
I think it did. I think it weirdly did pay off in that last game against the Raiders that they lost. Yes. But look at the effect that probably had on Justin Herbert, where he completed fucking 23 passes in a row. They're getting backed up into 4th and 23s. He's just fitting balls effortlessly on a rope, on the, these 4th and long must convert situations over and over again. I know that they lost that game and they definitely should have been in the playoffs, should have won it, but I don't know. I think Justin Herbert is as much as he's kind of a little bit of a ringer, douchebag, quarterback. I still love the guy. I think he's absolutely you've made the John Elway comparisons. I think they're pretty apt.
I don't think he's a douchebag. He seems like a very quiet
thing. All the analysts at the Ringer and stuff that are way too into him. I think that gets a little annoying, but he is very good.
He certainly is. Yes. The NFL's ready to anoint him the MVP right now. They're fully primed. Him or Burrow, they want to hand the MVP award to so badly.
I think Burrow is funny enough. I think Burrow's kind of window actually might have already passed him. That, if anything, last year
he's not shiny now, right?
Exactly. If anything, it would have been last year. Now they want it to happen to Justin Herbert, which is also hard to do. When you're supposed to be the guy that goes out and does it, that was Kyler probably a year or two ago, and it didn't happen. That can be tough. Definitely.
But yeah, AFC West obviously loaded, crapshoot, talent on both sides of the ball everywhere. Talking about a guy I think one of the more underrated superstars of this season that, hey, maybe could even be a defensive player of the year. Pat Surtain on the Broncos looked incredible all year last year, and think he has a real shot to have an all-pro caliber year. And maybe that Broncos defense is even better than we give them credit for, but just a crazy division. I guess that sums up the AFC West. Chiefs, Chargers for me, and you had the same deal there. AFC South, I had the Colts 11-6, 3 seed. I had the Titans, Jags, and Texans all with losing records. I wanted so badly to put the Jaguars, and this is where I got myself into some pickles, I think. Wanted so badly to have them be an 8-9, 9-8 team. I think that they're on the precipice of something like that. They remind me of the Lions in some weird ways, but them and the Texans, I did take the over on both of their win totals for the season on individual bets. When I was going through this way, I couldn't fit it in the way I envisioned. So I'm willing to be wrong there. And then I'm just as bearish as possible on the Titans. I hate the Titans this year.
Yeah, I think I've got them as pretty mediocre. I think it's just, it's a meathead fan thing to say, but the vibes are very weird right now with Ryan Tannehill and with Malik Willis. I think Willis is going to see the field at some point, and I do think he's going to impress to an extent, but 8-9 for me for the Titans. They're just kind of I feel like they're going to kind of go back to being what they were before Vrabel, which is weird to say with Vrabel still in the picture, but it feels like a little bit of a reloading year for them. AJ Brown being gone, that just really kind of weirds me out.
Robert Woods, they're relying off fresh off an ACL and probably could be a fine player. Receivers tend to recover from those decently as opposed to some other positions.
Yeah, for sure. And the Traylon Burks experience has been weird too, though. And Derrick Henry, it's just another year of wear and tear. I know he's awesome, and you got to respect the guy, but it just feels like the vibes are off with the Titans right now. I got them 8-9. Jaguars, I wanted to be higher than 4-12, but that's ultimately what I had. I just feel like they're going to be in some games. They're going to be competitive. I do think Lawrence is going to take that step forward, and Doug is going to be doing some weird shit going forward on 4th down and maybe instilling some belief, but just kind of another rebuilding year for a franchise that is still kind of recovering from the reverberating shock waves of the Urban Meyer experience. Texans, this is another one where I was just kind of picking it week to week, and then I looked up and all of a sudden they were 1-16. I probably would pick them just looking at it to win some more games, but those matchups are tough. Davis Mills, I get a lot of people believe in him, but it's just it's hard, for a young guy without a whole lot around him. I know he's got some receiving weapons, but it's just like, what is going on with this organization right now? Like, you talk about
and the coaching staff is something I always like to look at the end and say, did I make any weird coaches look horrible? And it's Lovie Smith. I don't
like. I like Lovie. I mean, he's a good guy to have on your staff. I don't know about like firing a head coach every year and then inserting this guy. And like, how is he feeling right now after what happened with David Culley? I'm sure he's happy for the opportunity, but that's just, talk about the vibes being off. That's another one that it's just very strange. And I feel like it can get out of hand really quick. So, I got them 0-6 within the division, 1-16. And then I did have the Colts winning it at 9-8. I don't think they're going to be particularly great, but I got them 5-1 within the division. They steal, over kind of half their wins there. And then just kind of make their way in as the 4 seed, 9-8. Matt Ryan, I think he's still probably got a little bit of juice, but I think we're getting near the end there with that experience.
Definitely. They are curious, those Colts. I had them at 11-6 and winning. And you think of a guy like what they have in Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith up front, Jonathan Taylor to take some pressure off of Matt Ryan, the best back he's had maybe ever. And Devontae Freeman at one point was damn good. And think about how well he was able to facilitate that run game for them with the kind of two-headed beast of Coleman and Freeman. He's got Nyheim Hines coming out of the backfield. And their defense is loaded, man. Blackman, Cross, Gilmore, Kenny Young, all those guys in the secondary they have. Gilmore, I feel like, is one of the most underrated signings of this and quietest signings of this really entire year. Yannick Ngakoue, Kwity Paye still there. Dayo Odabingo. Oh my gosh, I can't say it right now. I haven't said it in so long. Odabingo. I'm still saying it wrong. Gosh, you had it down last draft season so well. But anyway, Ngakoue, Paye, Buckner, Grover Stewart, a great one-shade tech in there. Fun guys, Okereke and Leonard. Like, their defense is loaded. They've got enough playmakers. I think they're a 10-win plus team. Ultimately, Matt Ryan knows how to weather that storm. And plus, when you get a quarter, it just reminds you of Matt Stafford, but like a less volatile, less. I don't want to say talented, but Ryan plays a much calmer game. There's not as many ebbs and flows with Matt Ryan. It's much more of like, okay, he's going to do the right thing. He's going to make some nice throws. Not as many dumb mistakes as a guy like Stafford will make and then bail himself out with his incredible arm talent. So think of it kind of like a poor man's Rams from last year.
Yeah, I could see it. They do have a lot of really strong pieces on that roster, and the coaching staff to that point, I think very good still. With Reich and all those guys, I am impressed by them year in and year out. So maybe I am being a little bit harsh. Maybe they do win some more, but it's a decent kind of
Gus Bradley there.
Yeah, I forgot about that, actually. That is a good addition. So
turned around the Raiders defense last year quite a bit in some ways.
Yeah, it's another thing where I think if I just looked at it, I would probably pick like a little bit of a higher one, but going through it week by week, I think they probably just had a tougher schedule. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. And that brings us to the good old AFC North. I had this one playing out quite a few ways. Ultimately, I ended up with a split and the Bengals getting the nod there. I think the Bengals are built to mess around in this division. I had them winning over the Ravens, both 11-6. Bengals get the 4 seed. Ravens get the 7 seed in the AFC at 11-6 through how it worked out. I think because I had them losing to the Dolphins in week 2, which we'll ultimately get to and see when it happens. But I think that ended up being the tiebreaker for them being the 6 seed or not. And then the Chargers ahead of them at the 5 seed. I had the Steelers at 7-10. And I did this. That was one of my issues when I did this a couple of days ago. I was like, I am not putting the Steelers as a 4 or 5 win team. That is not going to happen. Impossible. Even a losing season, I still feel wrong. And then I have the Browns at 6-11. And I had them at like 3-14 when I was doing this a couple times. And they're just too talented to be that bad. They do have the scrutiny. I think Brissett is a fine bridge quarterback guy, maybe a little bit lesser than a Teddy Bridgewater type, something like that, or, not terribly, terribly dissimilar from blanking on the name now. But ultimately, maybe they will go 8-9. Maybe they do go 9-8. Maybe once Watson comes in, he's fresh and whatever. It just feels like there's too many eyeballs on them. There's too much pressure. Watson's gone for a while. It's going to feel weird. It's going to look weird. They have Amari Cooper. He gets hurt a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I got him at 4-13, and I am not afraid to budge off of that. This is just like this is really bad, and it's going to be really bad, and they deserve all the bad things to happen to them. Like,
see, and that's the thing. I get that, and the pressure's there. I just really didn't want to be like, I hate you. You paid a horrible person, so I'm going to punish you game to game.
Not even from that perspective. It's from the perspective of, can you imagine being Jacoby Brissett right now and being those guys that are having to answer these questions every week? And can you imagine if you are Watson when you come back and you're going on the road in Pittsburgh and Baltimore and you have to deal with these games? Like, it's just going to be hard, man. Like, and it's hard enough to win in the league already, and then you've got all this shit going on every single week. It's gonna be tough. And like, yeah, I probably would have said like 6-11 just looking at it, but 4-13 I'm fine with. It's so much stress and pressure on a human being to have to deal with. And they brought it on themselves. I get that, but just looking at it from that nuts and bolts perspective, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now.
It is, and it's tough with the Bengals as well. I mean, what they figured out, and essentially what they figured out, is that Jamar Chase is the greatest run a 9 route receiver maybe of my lifetime, other than like Randy Moss. 11-6. I don't know. They're playing the winter schedule. People are really knocking them for that, but it's not like they didn't just go prove themselves in the playoffs against playoff teams relatively. And sure, the Titans game was super sloppy. Their defense is just underrated. They have a very disciplined defense. They're balanced. They don't really have, superstar players. Obviously, Jesse Bates, a really good safety, but I would say DJ Reader, top 5 easy nose tackle. Trey Hendrickson, good pass rusher. But you don't look at their defense and go, wow, they've got Myles Garrett, or wow, they've got Joey Bosa, or anything like that. But just every guy on their defense is fine, like good enough and at their position, and you don't really question anything defensively for them. And then their offensive line's better. They bring in La'el Collins. They have Ted Karras. It's going to be a better defensive line as the Orioles just continue to shoot themselves in the foot in every way possible. Alejandro Kirk with a broken.
And I looked around and he was running across the home plate. I was just like, oh God,
letting it get away. Weird series for the Orioles, but yeah, I mean, hey, the Bengals are kind of just running it back. They improve their offensive line. They bring in Hayden Hurst. We got Drew Sample there. Mixon. I mean, it's just the same thing with some slight tweaks and improvements. So they were a 10-7 team on a loser's schedule, but they also figured some things out. So I'm not afraid of them being a 12-5 or a 13-4 team when I'm doing this, but they play tough games. So I think they play the Bills and the Chiefs, and obviously the AFC North, anybody can beat anybody, but I did have them going 5-1, and I had them splitting with the Ravens. I think I had the Ravens beating them the second time to make the playoffs and sneak in there at 11-6.
Yeah, so I had the Bengals at 11-6, 4-2 within the division. I had the Ravens at 12-5, also 4-2 within the division, and I think they're pretty evenly matched teams. But I do think the Bengals schedule is harder, and I think they're going to lose an extra game as a result of it. I've got them splitting, and then I think I had both of them sweeping the Browns. And so Ravens were the 3 seed for me at 12-5. Bengals were the 6 seed at 11-6. I had Pittsburgh missing out, but they went 9-8. It was the 2-4 within the division that kind of killed them. And then, like I said, 4-13 for the Brownies, 2-4 within the division.
I guess just talking about this Ravens team now that we can get into that, you had them at, what'd you say, 12-5?
Yeah.
12-5. I have them at 11-6. And that's just the comfort zone, has been for years. That 10-6 classic.
Yep.
11-5 Ravens prediction. Obviously, looking at it on paper now, I think one of the biggest things, I was saying this with you and Cole earlier, one of the most, I would say, nationally overlooked things, and if you're watching it, you're going to be watching this Jets game on TV, they're going to point it out, and you're going to be like, wow, no one really talks about this. Mike McDonald's 34, has 1 year as a defensive apex coach at Michigan, and has a really unique roster defensively when you're looking through it on paper. I mean, Matabike, Pierce, Campbell, Owe, Houston, Patrick Queen, Bynes, the couple guys they have behind them. Peters, we'll see what's going to happen. Feels like hopefully by week 4, he's starting to feel himself a little bit more. Chuck Clark, Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey. I mean, like I just read about it feels like you're reading a much better defense talent-wise than you are about the Bengals when you read them off kind of from start to finish there. Obviously, there's some concerns about the pass rush, especially the edges and how few they have right now. Bowser gets back to practice. Ronnie Stanley also practicing. All good things on the injury front. J.K. Dobbins been practicing. Knock on wood there. None of those guys have suffered a setback There hasn't been something that's, nope, had to shut him down. So you're hoping that by week 6, they really start to roll. And that's how I had the season going. And then towards the middle, later of the season, they play the Falcons and the Panthers and some of these teams that, could be sneaky. I really wanted the Falcons to be sneaky. We'll get to that when I was doing this, but the schedule wasn't a gauntlet for them later in the year. And I think they really start to roll late in the season. Offensively, the offensive line feels like it's in a much better spot. Last year, we thought Ronnie Stanley was back because he was the week 1 starter. So, you're like, okay, that's fine. And whatever they're trying, Villanueva is going to play right tackle. They can go stick some, tight end over there to help him out. Suddenly you got Tyree Phillips and Alejandro Villanueva as your tackles. So if they're able to prevent that situation from going on, I don't know. There's no reason this team can't win any game that they're in, especially later in the year if these guys can hold up.
Yeah, there are some tough ones, but there's no we joked about how they get the Chiefs in week 2 every year. There's no crazy Patriots team that they have to deal with. Funny enough, they're going to have to play Brady in Tampa Bay. So there's that. They do
have the Bills at home.
Yeah, Bills at home, but that's at home. So you like you said, they can be in that game for sure, and they can win that. I mean, it's just they got a decent break with this schedule this year, I think, and having, I guess, technically a 4th place schedule, right? I mean, that's really going to help you. And it's when you replenish
play the Giants.
Yeah, exactly. And when you were in 8 and 9, when you really probably should have been 10 or 11 wins, that's going to help you to restock the cupboard and get back after it very quickly with a last place schedule. So yeah, I like their ability. Like I said, I like them and the Bengals just about equally, but I think they get the breaks this year.
Definitely. And, pass rush wise is definitely, I would say, the major question. You can bitch and moan about receivers, but then I'm going and looking at some of these other depth charts. I'm looking at the Packers, who I'm really bullish on. Just a couple other teams. It's like they have Mark Andrews, man. They have Rashad Bateman, obviously, we're so high on. But pass rush wise, if they are able to kick out Calais Campbell, who's talking about playing some more end, maybe running a little bit more nickel than you ever really even have confidently, and starting to use some of those 4-man pressure looks and using guys like Campbell and Urban, because they do have Pierce, they do have Matabike, they do have Washington, who I think is going to be very underrated going into this year, one of the quietest players that you're going to be like, wow, I'm glad they have Broderick Washington. Showed some great things in the run game. Emery Hunt, super high on him a couple years ago, coming in, I guess last year coming in, had him as his number 1 3 tech and came on our show and talked about that. But Travis Jones is going to be coming back eventually. So having Urban and Campbell to go spell in senses with Owe and Houston, they bring in Kyler Fackrell, Steven Means, guys that are, going to be warm bodies there. Not in a bad way, but not in a great way. And then hopefully Tyus Bowser are able to come back. And what does Eric DeCosta love to do? Discount, double check, bargain shop at the deadline. Go bring in, hopefully a disgruntled pass rusher from elsewhere that can really round that out. And I think you're cooking with gas. And you got guys like Kyle Hamilton. They're not going to need it. Him and Brandon Stevens the 3 of Brandon Stevens, Geno Stone, and Kyle Hamilton not being starters is so fun. And you're going to have so many unique packages and able to have some flexibility week to week matchup wise and looks wise and different things. So really just the key to me, as I've been harping on, is pass rush. If they have a good pass rush, this team's really, really good. And I think that's kind of the main focus here.
Yeah, I think that's an important point where it felt like for a lot of years, even in the Ozzie years at times, it felt like, oh man, we really they need to they're going to do what they do in free agency a little bit, but because they're so draft dependent, they're really depending on their 1 first-round pick that they, make to come in and make an impact that year. Sometimes it would happen with a CJ Mosley or some of these other guys that they pick that succeed right away.
Sometimes it happens. CJ Mosley is great as a rookie. Then you got Brashad Perriman that you're really counting on as a receiver another year.
Yeah, exactly. And this year, it feels like that's kind of what they need, but also not really. They could probably do fine if Linderbaum has to miss a couple games. You, I guess, plug McCary or whoever in there. Like you mentioned, safety is deep enough to the point that they really don't need much out of Hamilton right away. David Ojabo's not going to see the field for at least the first half of the year. It's anything they can get out of these guys is huge, but I could see them making the wild card even without a massive contribution from the rookie class. They'll need something, but they're not as dependent on it as I feel like they are in some other years.
And I wrote that article, if Linderbaum is a good center that is able to go attack, be more of a linebacker defeater, can go cut guys off second and third level and turn 5-yard gains into 15-yard gains because he's absolutely eliminating linebackers, things like that in space. If Odafe Owe, Rashad Bateman, Kyle Hamilton, if those guys are able to be mid-level impact players, like you don't need Bateman to go be a Jamar Chase. You don't need Owe to be, prime Von Miller. But if they're just young impact players that, aren't like all pros, but are kind of like maybe in that Pro Bowl consideration level for each of those guys, this is a really good team. I think the biggest thing from last year too, they were such a shitty tackling team, especially early in the season. And I know that practice has been ramped down a lot. So that's what I'm really curious to go see. Thinking about the athletes they have defensively, Matabike, who we've watched run down so many plays. Owe, we watched run down so many plays. Patrick Queen, who came on this podcast, says he's the most excited to play football in the NFL now that he has Mike McDonald. You've got Chuck Clark, you got Marcus Williams, you got guys, Marlon Humphrey, guys that should be able to go run down tackles. If they take better angles, work together more effectively, and just limit stupid plays from happening on broken tackles, like last year, they would have made the playoffs if that were the case, if they could have cleaned up some tackling issues. So I think that's one of the, quieter things to watch this team, especially early on. They go play the Jets, who's got Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, guys that can really do some damage with the football in their hands. And if they look good tackling, I'm going to feel damn good about this team.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like you make another good point there where it's like fundamentals really could have proved to be the difference between them making the playoffs and not last year. And a lot of that is probably owed to the fact that they have guys out there for, decent chunks of the season that, shouldn't really be counted on to remember their fundamentals because their head is spinning by the fact that they're on an NFL field to begin with. So that's not going to be the case this year, I don't think. And I bet against that being the, case with any John Harbaugh team most of the time. So yeah, I'm with you. And that it just feels like foundationally they're very solid and that's going to take them far.
Most definitely. So out of the AFC, I had the but Bills as the 1 seed. Gosh, I hate the way they displayed this. Bills is the 1 seed. Chiefs is the 2 seed. The Colts is the 3 seed playing the Dolphins. I had the Bengals and the Chargers matched up. I ended up having the divisional round be Bills, Dolphins, Chiefs, Chargers, and then I had Bills, Chargers in the AFC Championship game, and I had the Chiefs doing it again to them. I think Patrick Mahomes is so curious to prove himself without Tyreek Hill, who's also been talking shit about him, saying that, he wouldn't be as good without me, all of these things, which there is a level of he made it easy for Mahomes, but he also is still really disgusting as a quarterback and one of the best players in my lifetime. So good quarterback, good coach, better defense than they've had on paper. Spagnuolo, a little stale in some ways, it feels like, but should be revamped. So I don't know. Bills definitely could be it. Chargers definitely could be it. I had the Ravens losing to the Chiefs in the opening round in Arrowhead, and then it'd be a tough one, but I think would be a fun one in the ultimate series of the Mahomes and Jackson and heading into next year, things like that. So for me, this Ravens team in the playoffs, I think they are determined, but drew a really tough matchup in Arrowhead, and I think this team is going to put up a fight. I could see that being more of a maybe shootout kind of game. And I think that guys like Jackson, guys like Andrews, guys like Marlon Humphrey, Calais Campbell are ready to step up in the playoffs. If they draw something a little less intense than playing the Chiefs in Arrowhead, could certainly be feasting. Go play the Chargers in, if it turns out the other way, if they go play the Chargers in SoFi with no crowd environment at all, or if the Ravens win their division, could certainly see them making a little bit of a run. But it's just, when you're depending on Peters and Stanley and Bowser and all of these injured Dobbins, Gus Edwards, all these guys coming back and playing at a high level, so much rides on Rashad Bateman, all those things ultimately, it just was the lay of the land there. And I had him losing to the Chiefs in the first round.
Yeah. So I think we have a similar idea of what's going to happen, but I've got him going a little bit farther. I think I might've picked with my heart in some extent, but it kind of feels like it's time for them a little bit. So I had Chiefs as the 1 seed as well. Like we mentioned, Bills were the 2, Ravens were the 3, Colts were the 4, Chargers were the 5, Bengals were the 6, and Raiders were the 7. So that put the Colts and the Chargers up against one another in the first round, the Bills and the Raiders up against one another, and then the Ravens hosting the Bengals in Baltimore, which would be a really fun game. So to get into those matchups, I had the Ravens beating the Bengals at home to, complete the rubber match of the year because they split in the regular season. That would be a really fun win. I had the Bills taking down the Raiders in Orchard Park. So that would be Bills as the 2 seed versus the Ravens as the 3 seed in the divisional round. On the other side of the bracket, I had the Chargers actually going into Indy and taking down the Colts. So the 5 seed Chargers go to Arrowhead and take on the 1 seed Chiefs in the divisional. And so I had the Ravens actually upsetting the Bills. I do think it's time playoff wise. Like you got to start slaying dragons a little bit here. And I see that as kind of a redemption game for the 2020 season. I think they'll be fired up. I think the weather is going to be more normal. Hopefully, it's going to be freezing temperatures, obviously, but maybe not the insane wind. Justin Tucker getting gusted on. So 3 seed Ravens take down the 2 seed Bills to move on to the AFC Championship game. Chiefs dispatch of the Chargers as the 1 seed. So AFC Championship game is in Arrowhead. Ravens lose that game, and the Chiefs move on to the Super Bowl in the AFC. So I got them making it to the AFC Championship game, which for some of our friends listening here, that's enough. You're going to have to pipe down now because they made it to a conference championship.
Doesn't matter. They didn't win the Super Bowl, so they suck.
No, see, a lot of people say that's all they want is a conference championship. So I'll be sure to hold them to that if this does take place.
Definitely. And they won't be mad at Greg Roman in that game if that were to happen. For sure. Yep. So with that said, that's the AFC for us. And obviously our expertise is a little heavier relatively in the AFC, just a touch, I'd say. But NFC, fun conference. AFC, AFC West, all these, how deep it is. I like that it's not the other way. And I think there's some interesting paths for some teams that we'll get to, such as like the Falcons, such as, I don't know, the Lions, the Bears were fun teams for me. The Giants, who knows, could also be an absolute dumpster fire. There's so many teams that feel like they could be a shit show dumpster fire and at the same time could have a surprising year. So it was really hard. I know a lot of people high on the Lions and some of those teams. Getting into the NFC North, I had the Packers, and the Packers, I had it 12-5. They're the 1 seed. Interestingly enough, I had them going 3-3 in their division. So I think that the Vikings are a fun team. I had them 10-7. They actually ended up with a 5 seed. Had the Lions at 8-9 and the Bears at 6-11. I think the Lions are on Hard Knocks, so I feel like an idiot because everybody's going to pick them to go 8-9 or 9-8 or whatever. They just have a damn good offensive line. They like to hit. They've got weapons offensively. If Jared Goff is an average quarterback and a guy like DeAndre Swift stays healthy, they can get something out of maybe a DJ Shark. I don't know. They're a team that felt like they could really feast on some shit teams in the NFC. Maybe go win 1 or 2 games against, the Vikings, the Packers, a couple other stronger NFC opponents, and be there. Be, kind of feeling like this Orioles team, I want to say a little bit, where they're just not quite able to go get over the good teams that are typically a little bit more successful, but they're talented enough to scare some people and feel kind of similar there. So fun division. Then Bears. I feel like the Bears are going to find their stride. They have Matt Eberflus. Feels like they have an adult in the room in many ways with their coaching staff now. They have a clear vision for Justin Fields. Their offensive line is going to be stinky, so they need to really do a lot of things to help Justin Fields out, who's someone who takes too long in his progressions and obviously is trying to speed that up. But I don't know. There's a fun division for me. Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, first-year coach. I had them going to the playoffs. Should have enough talent. And if that offense can be more confident and competent and less Mike Zimmery, then you could be talking about having a 1,500-yard rusher, a 1,500-yard receiver, and then, some other nice weapons beyond those two. So weird division, but the Packers I love. Their defense is so damn good. And I think Aaron Rodgers can, mentally wage warfare upon the defenses that he's playing enough to boost that receiving core and get them to 12-5.
Yeah, and also this is a Voss thing. This is not a huddle it up films guys thing. Voss is always talking about how all he wants is a conference championship and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be interested to see if that actually does play out. What his tune is going to be. So that's actually what that is. Yeah. So NFC North Packers, I love them too. I had them 13-4, 5-1 within the division. I don't really have this as much of an impressive division. I've got it beating themselves up a little bit. So everything you mentioned about the Packers, I do love the defense. Aaron Rodgers is in his fully self-actualized era, which I'm glad that he's self-actualized for his sake. I hate it for mine because he's just getting more and more annoying every time he opens his mouth. So there's that, but I think he's going to have another good year and they're going to go 13-4 and be the 2 seed. I've got the Vikings at just a very Vikings, Kirk Cousins 8-9, 3-3 within the division, kind of just missing out there as the 8th seed. So, not in the playoffs. And then 7-10 for the other two kind of plucky, outfits that we got here with the Bears and the Lions. So
plucky outfits. That's a perfect way to put them.
Yeah, they're just they're frisky. They're both 2-4 within the division for different reasons. Obviously, you got Dan Campbell and the boys. I didn't watch Hard Knocks. Maybe I'll binge it at some point. But I'm a Dan Campbell fan. And I think Goff, when he's in the right situations, he's fine. He can win you some games. So I think they'll ride that Dan Campbell dopamine wave for the first couple games. That'll get them some wins. It worked out that way on the schedule too, and then I got them getting some weird upsets late in the year with a little bit of that Dan Campbell manna. And then 7-10, the Bears were technically above them on a tiebreaker. I like Justin Fields, not quite as much as you, but I do like him a lot, and I'm excited to see what he can do this year. I mean, the skill group is really bad, but I don't know if they can be even
run the football, use him in the run game.
Right.
And not be, leaving him on an island running empty when he has a shit inexperienced offensive line.
Use him in the run game is the key thing to me, because he's low key kind of a tank. And I'd be interested to see if they could get some provocative stuff going on with him running the ball and
it's just funny because we'll get to the NFC West, but thinking about him and maybe a Malik Willis and a Trey Lance. No one talks about how fucking electric he is as a runner and how fast he is. And like you said, not a powerful runner, but also a stocky guy a little bit. Got a little junk in the trunk, So use him in the run game, open things up, keep it conservative offensively in a good way.
A lot of Cole Kmet. Give me a lot of Cole Kmet. Give me a lot of Darnell Mooney. Just feed your guys and get that running game going. And you can win some games here with this kid.
Definitely. I think I had them catching on a little later in the year. Really, I feel like they had a murderer's row early in the season, somewhat relatively, and then quite the opposite later. So I had them catching on. But that's the NFC North. So I had, again, Packers 1 seed, Vikings 5 seed. Then you had Packers. What was the seed of the Packers for you?
They were the second.
Second, okay. And that was the only one you had. Vikings missed?
Yep. Okay. Vikings 8-9, and they missed the playoffs. Kirk Cousins probably going to throw 33 touchdowns and 10 picks and be there forever.
Exactly. Moving on to the NFC East. Didn't want to go too crazy on the Eagles. I was ready to. I was really ready to. They end up actually being the 2 seed still. Same record as the Packers, 12-5. It really was just hard to sort out the Commanders and the Giants and what those teams will be. There's, another first-year head coach in Daboll who I think is going to turn things around for them. But just a weird task and probably doesn't fucking like Daniel Jones. If I were him, I wouldn't be super thrilled about him. I don't know. I don't know what the approach is to make him grow some balls and understand how to stop fumbling and panicking and things like that. It feels like Daboll's not the McVay, O'Connell, why can't I think of his name on the Bengals, the head coach of the Bengals, Zach Taylor. Feels like he's not this West Coast kind of chill guy. He's pulling up to the facility in a blue F-150 lifted, and Daniel Jones is not that energy. So I think Daboll probably has a lot of rope and doesn't care to suck a little bit. So I did have the Eagles winning it. I had the Cowboys narrowly missing at 10-7. Then I had Washington and the Giants both at 6-11. I don't know, just really weird trying to sort out the Commanders and the Giants for me.
Yeah, I'm always going to be bullish on my Dallas Cowboys, so I got them at 12-4, or 12. Why does it?
You might have missed a game.
I probably did miss a game, so they'll be probably 12-5, right? And they were 3 seed in the NFC. That's really throwing me off. 4-2 within the division. I had them.
Let's talk about our Cowboys.
Yeah. I'm actually it feels like this kind of feels a little Ravensy to me, where the hype every year, it's the hype is crazy with the Cowboys, and then the next year it's kind of dies down a little bit. And this feels like the correct end of that cycle, where the hype is not out of control. Tony Pollard is in the mix. He's going to be fine. Offensive line, they still got some pieces. This Jason Peters thing, I'm not super anxious to see how that works out, but we'll see what happens. Dak, I'm always a big believer in. Those receiving weapons are legit. Defense, I think, is going to be good again. Micah is a stud. You got, Diggs is going to pick some balls off at the very least. And I just think they're a big momentum franchise. I feel like they always are. Once they catch fire, it's hard to stop them until the first round of the playoffs when they stop themselves. But yeah, this just feels like, even with Mike McCarthy in the picture, who I'm not the biggest fan of, I just feel like they're kind of the blue blood right now, and like the Eagles are going to have to go out and prove it to me. Which, for the record, I have the Eagles at 11-6, 5 seed, 4-2 within the division, but I still got the boys as the team to beat there.
This is a Cowboys friendly podcast. We always have been.
Yep.
Defensively, I love it. I love it. People have such polarized takes on Diggs. He plays within the system well. He's kind of like a Richard Sherman. That doesn't quite have that prodigious length and some of the physicality to it, but going to be able to make plays on that vertical plane and that cover 3 defense. Micah Parsons, I have put a lot of money on him probably a stupid amount of money on him winning Defensive Player of the Year. They brought in Anthony Barr, DeMarcus Lawrence healthy, Osa Odighizuwa, and Neville Gallimore, 2 super disruptive, explosive interior pass rushers. They also have, some guys like Quentin Bohanna, Terrell Basham, Sam Williams, someone I liked when we were doing draft coverage a lot. Another
way, I picked them to beat the Jaguars.
You picked who to beat the Jaguars?
So the game that I missed was at Jaguars. I picked them to win that. They're still the 3 seed at 13-4.
There we go. Okay. Wow. 13-4. Wow. So Dante Fowler is a Cowboy. So that front seven loaded,
like pass rushers that did do anything anywhere else, and they sometimes they catch on. I mean, right, like some of these guys, it's just very interesting. Like they're
like with Randy Gregory last year, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I love it.
You certainly do. So I think a very fun defense offensively. CeeDee Lamb, Offensive Player of the Year, I've put a little bit of money on as well, like $15 or something. He is going to maybe lead the NFL in targets. Dalton Schultz is fine. The receiver room, very weird. They've got Jalen Tolbert, Simi Fioco, and Michael Gallup. I saw a picture of his quads, and one of them looks like an average human being's quad, and the other one looks like an Olympic athlete. So that to me says that he's not quite ready to come back and be in a good place. But that offensive line, obviously losing Tyron Smith for the year, having to bring in Jason Peters. They were so happy with Tyler Smith at left guard. Suddenly he's probably playing left tackle. So very weird team for them. Eagles, man, I'm fucking pumped on them.
Yeah, they're going to be strong. I think that maybe some more growing pains with Hurts, but I think we're higher on him than some other people are. And yeah, I think the ceiling might not be super high. So if you're trying to say oh, we need to go and get this, you look around at the quarterbacks du jour in the AFC, for example, we need to go get this physically imposing Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Herbert type guy. I don't think Hurts is going to be that, but you made the Jimmy G comparison with Tua a little bit. I think he could be even a more souped up version of that. So yeah, 11-6, I got them at 5 seed there. And I don't quite remember what I did with them in the playoffs, but I guess we'll get into that.
We will, and I'm really curious to see Shane Steichen and what their offensive who's their quarterbacks coach, Brian Johnson. I'm really curious. There is a world of possibilities where the Eagles are really good this year, and the Ravens maybe, let's say, miss the playoffs, and Lamar Jackson stays, and a lot of other things go. I think is not maybe the most likely outcome, but an outcome. Don't be shocked if maybe there are some poaches done from the Eagles coaching staff into the Ravens, offensive coordinator wise or anything like that. They are a souped up version of what the Ravens could have been in many ways, talent wise. And I think the way they use some of their passing concepts, and I think that Lamar Jackson would do fucking incredible in their offense and with the weapons that they have. Think that they have surrounded Hurts with the best outfit of talent and offensive line help, aside from maybe the running back room a little bit in the NFL. So super pumped up on them. I had them take a couple L's just to temper myself and not put them at 15-2 or something, but super pumped up on them. So them the 2 seed. And then, like we said, Commies and Giants, very strange. So that's the NFC East. Moving on to the South. When I was doing this, another one of the ones that I didn't like the outcome of was the Saints kept being an 11 and sometimes 12 and sometimes 10 win team for me. And I don't trust that at all. Sean Payton is not there anymore. They have the same offensive coordinator they've had for quite some time. But Dennis Allen, a great defensive coordinator. It feels like their defense is a lot lesser than it has been talent-wise in ways. They bring in Marcus May, who just was arrested on, I believe, please please look this up, but aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, if I'm not mistaken, just before the season, counting on him to be able to go be that rangy guy for them on the back end. That's not fun. So ultimately I ended up having the division go Bucks 11-6, 3 seed, Saints 8-9, Falcons 6-11. I had the Panthers going 3-14, one of the worst teams in the NFL. People seem to be very high on Baker, and I'm fine with that. I'm happy that I get to kind of root for Baker now. I think that's going to be fun for me fan-wise. I just don't think Matt, again, it comes down to coaching, and I feel like Matt Rule is fucking done. Everyone thinks Christian McCaffrey is going to end up, being offensive player of the year again, all these things. Doesn't stay healthy very often. I feel like they've done a nice job on paper to be more competitive, but I just don't trust Matt Rule.
Yeah, I'm with it. I do have him having a little bit of a renaissance here, maybe connecting back in with his mentality from Baylor, because I got them going 8-9 and sneaking in actually as the 7th seed miraculously. So 3-3 within the division. I'm pretty high on Baker having a little bit of a bounce back here. I don't think he's going to be great, but I think he is going to shit pump the Browns at week 1. That just feels like it's got him written all over it. Couple sound bites, walking off the field, that kind of thing. Maybe feeling himself a little too much. Then they stumble the next week or something, and you kind of get into the rhythm of the regular season. But yeah, I've got them sort of doing what they need to do to have that like 2010 Seattle Seahawks type run. Christian McCaffrey kind of carrying them to an extent. And they do have pieces on defense that I know we both like. So they were 8-9 as the 7th seed. Bucks I had at 14-3 as the 1 seed. 5-1 within the division. And this is another one where looking at it, that looks a little weird. Maybe you'd pick a couple less games, especially with all that's been going on there, or really not going on with Brady not being in the house. That's another weird vibe situation for me. But I don't know. I just think like Brady is just, I can't bet against him. Like, and I think he knows this is it. And like, he is going to be fucking all out. And like, he probably like whatever was going on with his personal life, I think he's put that behind him and he is ready to just lock in for the next 20 plus weeks and like, see if he can make one last run at this thing. So 14-3 for them, 6-11 for the Saints. Weird, fun team with Jameis. I think he's, maybe not going to play the full season. And then this Falcons team, I just really don't like. 3-14, 2-4 in the division for both of them.
So I do like this Falcons team. And if you give me Calvin Ridley on this team, I actually feel like they're in a good place. Dean P is still there. Dave Ragone under Arthur Smith there controlling the offense. You put Calvin Ridley on this team, you go look at their defense. They got Casey Hayward and A.J. Terrell as their corners. Richie Grant at safety. Linebackers, weird, whatever. But Taquan Graham, someone I'm excited about. Grady Jarrett. They got Ogundeji and Michael Walker. They're able to do some things. Rashaan Evans there, which is weird. But then offensively, I mean, again, they got Olamide Zaccheaus, Brian Edwards, who's been forgotten about, and maybe could be a fantasy viable player in this offense. Kyle Pitts, I'm as bullish as humanly possible on. I think he's going for 1,200 plus yards, a ton this year. Drake London, weird, coming off an ankle injury. But if you give me Calvin Ridley and maybe 10 games healthy of Marcus Mariota and giving Desmond Ridder time to get comfortable, and then get him a couple games, not shocked to see them make a playoff push. Ultimately had them at 6-11. But I do kind of like this Falcons team a little bit. I think they're a little bit weird, a little bit edgy, and they've got some damn good corners. And their offensive line's not half bad either. Drew Dahlman, a fun center that's quick, a big guy that I was a fan of coming out of Stanford. And think they have a really nice offensive line with Caleb McGreary and Lindstrom and some of those other guys. So Cordero Patterson, fantasy football wise, I don't know why the hell he goes in the 9th round. I've drafted him every single time, but weird division, weird division. Bucks just have some really weird offensive line stuff going on. They've got guys stolen. Ryan Jensen tears his ACL. Had them taking some L's early, but then ended up with the 3 seed. So weird division. I'd say that's those two divisions, probably the NFC South and the NFC East. Really hard to sort out for me overall.
Yeah, no, the South is weird for me, and like it wouldn't surprise me if the Bucks do stumble a little bit with the Jensen stuff and with just some of the other crap that they've had going on. But I don't know. I've just looking at the way that the schedule played out week to week, it just kind of played out that way for me, and I do think they're going to prey on this division a little bit. So that's where I had it.
Love it. Then heading into, I guess, kind of the poor man's AFC West, the NFC West, where we got the Rams, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. To go in reverse order, I had the Seahawks as the worst team in the NFL and getting the number 1 overall pick at 2-15, which feels stupid. They probably are well coached enough with Pete Carroll and being able to run the ball. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, their defense has some weird stuff going on, but still some actual dogs on it. But I had them taking the number 1 pick, and that feels stupid because, again, Pete Carroll, not a bad enough coach to ever be in that circumstance. But also, Russell leaves. I don't know. Just doesn't feel great there. Then I had the other 3 making the playoffs. 49ers and Cardinals taking the 7 and the 6 seed, going 10-7, and the Rams 11-6. I had the Rams a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover early on in the season. Matt Stafford with some soreness, integrating Allen Robinson into the offense. Their offensive line, losing a guy like Whitworth, losing a guy like Von Miller defensively, some of those other pieces defensively, but still, you've got the boy wonder himself in Sean McVay. You've got Cooper Kupp. You've got Jalen Ramsey. You've got Aaron Donald. You got Matt Stafford. Playoff team.
Yeah, they are for me. They're the 4 seed at 10-7. I do have a little bit of that Super Bowl hangover. I think that schedule is going to be tough. And the Stafford injury is just kind of strange to me. And I don't know. The Aaron Donald fight was kind of weird. That probably isn't going to play into the regular season at all, but it just maybe speaks to some oh man, I got to do another year of this shit now after all the energy I expended in it last year. It's just maybe a little bit of a visual representation of what that Super Bowl hangover can be like, even for a winning team. So, it's not even really that bad of one. Like I said, they're a playoff team at 10-7, 4 seed, 6 seed, San Francisco 49ers at 9-8, 4-2. My guy Shanny, I think, is going to be drawing it up. His best Kendall Roy impression, just, keeping the train rolling. And I think there's going to be maybe some stumbling blocks early on where they're going to be feeling some pressure with Jimmy G still in the picture, and maybe some buyer's remorse about doing that, and not just technically they did go all in with Trey Lance, I guess, but the fact that he's still there is going to be weird to some 49ers fans, and there's going to be pressure if he stumbles. I think it happens a little bit, but they right the ship and they get to 9-8, and they get that 6 seed above the Panthers, who were the 7 there with a losing record. Then our guy Kyler and the boys, I had them at 7-10, missing out on the playoffs. I don't know how they clean house after they gave out those contracts to Kime and Cliff, but we're going to see what happens with that. So they are missing out on it, kind of just missing out as the 9th in the NFC. And then Seahawks 6-11 for me. To your point about Pete, I just think he's going to get a couple win one for the Gippers. And then I think Geno Smith is weirdly kind of too good to lose that many games as well. He's not good at all, but he's just competent. They've got some receiving weapons that he can mess around with. I think Noah Fant could maybe break out with a guy like him, sort of relying on the middle of the field a little bit. And then, Pete will scheme some things up on defense. So 6-11 for the Seahawks.
Love it. 49ers, very interesting to me. Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan, obviously the sexy run game man. Deebo Samuel getting paid. I think their offensive line's in a weird spot. McGlinchey, some other things, but I think Trey Lance is going to run for a shit ton of yards. They're going to have an offense that doesn't have to throw the ball a ton, and they've got a damn good defense. Nick Bosa, fully healthy. I've basically am 100% sure that him or Micah Parsons is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. I love those bets so incredibly much. I can't explain. It just feels like the 49ers are going to physically dominate shitty teams nonstop, enough to get to the postseason. I think Trey Lance is going to come in hot. I think he's going to be throwing bombs. I think they're going to be able to have kind of like a Ravens offense in ways where they have a quarterback that's mobile and dangerous enough to suck you up and results in some of these weird situations for linebackers and safeties being flat-footed, can have some moving parts. You have Trent Williams who can go run over 3 grown men like it's nothing, get the ball to Kittle, get the ball to Deebo, get the ball to Ayuk. So fine team, definitely. Yep. With Jimmy G, they were able to make some noise and all of that stuff. It felt like they were winning in spite of him, but also he was doing a fine job at times. So I don't know. I kind of stand in the middle of the Jimmy G stuff, but I think Trey Lance is talented enough, arm talent-wise and athletically, to do some fun things in that offense. And I'm actually cool with the Cardinals because I think their defense is going to be a lot better. I had them at 10-7. Vance Joseph coming in, adult in the room defensively. Apparently Isaiah Simmons has the green dot now and is ready to fucking be who he was supposed to be. So I think that could be a really fun development for them. I'm excited to see Hollywood Brown. I think he's a great fantasy value. I think he's going to have another 100 catch, 1,200 yard year. Or I guess his first 100, more catches than he had, more yards than he had, and of a good fantasy year, good statistical year. They're going to throw him all those quick screens. They're going to be more competent. He's going to be able to go get 8 yards and run out of bounds and maybe actually take a couple to the house. DeAndre Hopkins will be rested, come back. They've got some okay number 2, number 3, number 4 receivers behind that. And James Conner's a fun runner. Offensive line's fine. So I think they have an adult in the room defensively, and they have enough to make some noise. Tough division. And I think those 3 teams, again, it's kind of like that AFC West. It's a lot of teams that can make some noise in it other than the Seahawks. So that, I guess, does the NFC for us. I had it shaking out with the Packers as the 1 seed. The Eagles as the 2 seed. The Rams play the Vikings and beat them. The Cardinals play the Bucks. The Bucks beat them. And then I have the Packers beating the Rams, the Bucks beating the Eagles, and the Packers winning the NFC to go play the Chiefs. And I actually had the Packers winning the Super Bowl here. Aaron Rodgers has just been – we've reached a point of no return.
You're muted.
Devonta Adams, they trade him away, and it feels like it doesn't matter. Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs or one of those guys, he will turn into a Pro Bowl receiver. The ayahuasca stuff, the guru stuff has gone too far. And Aaron Rodgers, man, he's going to the Super Bowl. I don't know how else to put it. I think we get a Rodgers-Mahomes Super Bowl. That defense, them and the Eagles, I mean, look at the corners they have. Look at the pass rush. They have all the things they have going on. Rashawn Gary, another fun one for if you're trying to go with a 3rd Defensive Player of the Year bet. Just rocking and rolling. Their linebackers are insane. Quay Walker, I think, is going to be a beast. My linebacker 1 from this class, and playing next to Devondre Campbell. And I don't know. It's just time. It's time for Aaron Rodgers. Sorry, Big Cat.
Yeah. So like I said, I had the Bucks as the 1 seed. Packers were the 2 seed. They took on the Panthers, who were the 7. They easily dispatched them. 3 seed Cowboys.
I think you're muted.
No, I'm muted. Huh? What the fuck? You hear me now?
I can't hear you.
Really?
Still can't hear you.
Anything?
I'm going to leave and come back and see if that helps. Something weird happened with mine.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess from my perspective, I had the Buccaneers as the 1 seed at 14-3, and they are obviously going to have that first round bye. And you've got the Packers as the 2 seed, easily dispatching of the. You hear me?
Yep.
Good. Yeah, easily dispatching of Baker and the Panthers. So they move on. Cowboys take on the the 49ers at home, which is going to be a fun rematch. I do have the Cowboys winning it this time. And then I had the Eagles going on the road and upsetting the Rams. Eagles were the 5 seed, Rams were the 4. So Eagles move on. Next round had the 1 seed Buccaneers taking down the 5 seed Eagles. That's another rematch. I think it's going to be closer this time. And then I had the Cowboys at the Packers. Packers win, 2 seed over 3 seed there. I had the Packers going into Tampa Bay, another revenge game, 2 seed versus 1 seed. I've got this time Aaron Rodgers taking down Tommy Boy, sending him into probable retirement, into that Fox booth, I guess. And yeah, that leaves us with a Chiefs-Packers Super Bowl. And honest to God, like as much as Aaron Rodgers annoys me, it would be cool to see him win a second one. He's one of the best players I've ever seen, like by far, but I just can't pick against Mahomes in a spot like that. So I've got the Chiefs over the Packers, and that is my Super Bowl pick.
So very funny that we came to the same Super Bowl, and there you go. So I think we like the Chiefs this year. We like the Packers this year. And overall, love this exercise. I don't think we broke it down in this much detail before we've done this. I think this was a very fun show. We'll dive deeper tomorrow into the Ravens. This one running an hour, and we're going to have another one the next day. So we can get even a little bit more specific now that we've had some time to chew on the whole league. And I think the juices are only going to flow more. I'll probably have goose pimples in the morning when I wake up, ready to go watch that Bills-Rams game and kick this season off the right way. Super fired up for the season. I think you and I are in a very good place. This was a very fun episode. Had some fun interviews last couple weeks here, and going to try and have a lot more this season. So super fired up. All kinds of fun things going on. I'm very, very excited. And hey, if Chiefs Packers make it to the Super Bowl, then we're some damn geniuses.
Yeah, we sure are. And so I guess to that point, anyone looking for their content fix, go back and listen to that Patrick Queen interview if you did not already. A fun little chat between him and Spenny there from Monday. That was a good one. This will be obviously your second show of the week, and then we're going to have a third one coming on Friday. previewing that Ravens-Jets game. So it's officially review season, and we're back in that swing of things. So that's fun. Doing Madden prediction videos, little let's play type thing that they're fun to do. I definitely want to stick more with it this year. Last year was weird because like I started on the Xbox One version by accident, and then like I had to like switch over to the Series X when I got that. Like I lost my save, so like I couldn't really finish it, but back into it, and I have one up now live on Baltimore B-Town's YouTube. If you want to go and watch that, see how me versus the Jets kind of plays out this week, and enjoy that if you will. Other than that, feel free to follow us on social media. You can follow the show at Podcast Beatdown. You can find me at Jake Luke. That's LOUQUE. Spencer is Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4 in the middle there. Thank you guys for listening as always. It was a fun one, and we'll talk to you again later in the week. Football is back.
See ya.
Peace.
Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age?
Get down! Baltimore! What are they getting? Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that.